All right, welcome to Two Generation Analyzation, where we will discuss a variety of subjects. We are a father and son team, which will bring a different perspective from different generations. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to explore. This week we've actually chosen three different topics we wanted to discuss. This week we're focusing on NFL, and we picked a few couple of games. Those two games that have major playoff implications. First game will be Tennessee and Cleveland, and then the second game we'll discuss is Arizona and the Rams, LA Rams. And we'll review at the end. Then the third topic, we'll review the AFC playoff picture and discuss who we think is going to make it into the playoffs. I'll turn it over to Tevin.
All right. Before before the show, I was like doing my notes and stuff, and I'm still not used to LA Rams to this day. I still call them St. Louis. Um, but whatever. So starting off with the Browns and Tennessee Titans. Uh, hot take right off the bat: Titans take it. 24-14, 27-14, something like that. I think the Browns. Did I say the Browns take it or the Titans take it?
I think you said the Titans.
Okay, it's been a long day. I think the Browns are a good team. I really do. I think they've taken strides from where they were uh, in previous years. I just don't think they're 8-3 good. I think it's kind of like the Steelers. I think the Steelers are a good team. I don't think they're 10-0 good. Uh, but credit where credit is due. They have improved substantially over the past probably decade, I would say. I still think the Titans take it. So the Browns are in the AFC North. Titans are AFC South. They are both 8-3 right now. With the Steelers leading the AFC North and the Titans leading the AFC South. Now the Browns are a couple games away, 3 games actually away from the lead over the Steelers. Now, while I do think the Steelers will take the division, there's obviously a chance the Browns take it if they win and the Steelers kind of tank from here on out. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think I think the Titans are going to win their division. They're 1 game ahead of who is it? Who is it? Who is it? The Colts, which they beat. It was last week or the week before.
The Titans beat the Colts 2 weeks ago, I
Okay, so
believe.
yeah, now the Titans are 1 game ahead of the Colts, and the Browns are 3 games behind the Steelers. If the Titans win, I think it will solidify their position more and be more beneficial to them. Rather, the Browns winning, I think it wouldn't be as beneficial to the Browns because now the Titans go up 2 games over the Colts. Obviously, depending on what the Colts status game is. But that's my take. How about you?
All right, so the Tennessee Cleveland game. I think the over and under on that game is 54. I'm picking slightly over that. I think Tennessee takes that game. I do believe they're a better team, um, and I think they take it 31 to 28, something like that. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than the 54. Tennessee, I think, is favored by 6 in that game.
Mm.
I'm going to say it's a little bit closer to that and a little bit higher scoring. We'll see. My biggest take there is I believe Tennessee pulls it out, and here's why. Cleveland has only beat one team this year that had a above 500 record. Obviously, that could change, but I really haven't seen enough out of Cleveland to really tell me to indicate that they're there. They are legit. Obviously, they won 8 games. They clinched a non-losing record, if you will, by at least the worst they can do is an 8-8. So they would be 500. So that's a big deal for Cleveland. They've had a rough they've had a rough probably 2 decades or
Yeah.
more, and
Since
so
I've been born, they've been bad.
so they do have a long, they're fighting, they're getting better. They've lost some players, some key players. I think that does hurt them. But they're fighting, they're clawing, they're getting better. Now, here's where I think this game is going to come down to. I think this game is going to come down to quarterback play. We mentioned this in, I believe, last week's podcast. So, uh, you know, Chubb is doing very well with running. Let me just throw this couple of little things out there. He's doing very well. I think he's averaging like 6.3 or, yeah, 6.3 yards per carry. Very, very well. Obviously, we know Tennessee's running game and Derrick Henry and what they've got there. So I think that's going to be a very key matchup. Henry doesn't catch the ball a lot, but he runs very well, and he's going to run many times for him. I believe. I would be surprised unless the game really gets lopsided really quick for some reason. I'd be surprised if he doesn't run 20 plus easy. I could see 25 times. He is the workhorse there, and they feed off of him. They go through him. In turn, they from there they can do some play action passing and things like that. They really help out, and the wide receiver core is actually pretty good. They're not bad at all. So I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. Like I said, I do believe right now, that Tannehill is playing much better than Mayfield, and I think his stats prove that. Tannehill is at 23-4 ratio with TD to interception, and Mayfield is at like 17-7. So their rating, Tannehill is over 100, 106, whereas Mayfield is like 92. So I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to outplay him. Therefore, I think they're going to win. So
Okay,
that's my take on that first game.
good take. A little side note: the Browns' defense is ranked in the top 10 for rush yards allowed, so it'll be interesting to see how Derrick Henry performs with a pretty good run defense.
So not allow, but when you say top 10, you mean like they're the
Top 10,
lowest
least,
allowing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So now we are going to talk about the Rams and the Cardinals. Lordy. The Rams are one game over the Cardinals in their division. And I actually saw this on our fantasy football app. The Rams allowed the fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this season. 3 out of the last 4 games, DeAndre Hopkins has 55 yards or less, and the Rams are one of the top ranked against the pass. It's going to be an interesting game. You have a very, very mobile, very good quarterback in Kyler Murray. I think he still has a lot to prove. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is freaking DeAndre Hopkins. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how a good pass defense compares to I would say, pretty good pass offense. Um, I don't know. It's a hard game to call. Kyler Murray was injured last week, I believe, and he played through it, and it was not an impressive performance, if I do say so myself. Depending on how Kyler Murray is feeling this week, I think depends on how the game goes. If he's 100% and he balls out, I think the Cardinals can win it. If he's not doing good, I don't think the Cardinals win it. I think it solely depends on how good Kyler Murray is performing that day.
I agree. I think that's what's going to determine it. What I would say that we saw, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe even 3 weeks ago now, is Kyler Murray getting hurt. He got slammed on that shoulder pretty hard. He hasn't been the same since. For whatever reason, he hasn't ran as much either. Don't know if there's any issues with his legs or anything of that nature. But I thought it was interesting. I believe it was last week. He only ran for 5 times in that game, which was very very low, not many yardage. You would think you would see an uptick in his running, especially if his shoulders bothering him. Limit the throws and utilize his mobility and his legs.
Mhm.
I don't think Kyler's back. I don't think he's back 100%. He didn't play last week very well at all, and so therefore I think it's going to be another week or two before we see Kyler Murray, I mean, I really hope he does fully heal, and there's no structural damage there that's long lasting. So I hope it is something minor that he does fully recover quickly, and we do see that. I'd love to see that because I think if he's 100%, that's a whole different game between Arizona and the Rams. I do believe that's going to come down to more of a probably a little bit more of a shootout because I think the Arizona Cardinals would put up a lot of points then. I don't think he's there. I don't think he's completely healthy, and so I'm calling that game. Arizona is they're the underdogs by 3 points, and I think the over and under was like 48. But I'm gonna say this is gonna be a little bit closer, a little bit under, and a little bit under the under over. And I'm gonna say that it's gonna be a 28-17. I don't think it's gonna be a close game between them. If he is healthy, I think we will see a close game and we'll see a much higher scoring. But I don't think he's there, so I'm going Rams 28, Arizona Cardinals 17.
I agree. I think it solely depends on how Kyler's feeling. If he's 100%, and it was just a minor thing that when he was throwing it hurt him and it threw his accuracy off a little bit, and he's 100% this week, I think it's probably like 21-24, and the Cardinals have a good chance of taking it. However, if he is not 100% and he performed anything like he did last week, I think the Rams are going to take it pretty easily, like 27-14. But yeah. So, last topic. We're going to go over the AFC and the playoff NFC, right? No, the
AFC.
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 Duh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we
AFC playoffs.
went over the NFC last week. We're gonna go over the AFC this week. Quick rundown of each of the four divisions. We're gonna give our thoughts on who wins it and why. Starting out, AFC East: Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots, New York Jets. Who you got?
I am going to go with Buffalo. But I could see this game, or I could see this division coming down to the last week. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Buffalo plays Miami in the last week of the year, and I think it could come down to that. I think both of those teams could be rolling in there at 10-5 and fighting for the division. But it's in Buffalo. I think Buffalo takes it. I think Buffalo winds up with 11-5 record, and the Dolphins are 10-6 with a wild card berth.
Uh, it's hard. I think the Bills take it ultimately. I don't think Tua is there yet. I don't think the Dolphins are there yet. I think give them a year, and I could solidly say the Dolphins would win the division. But with Tua being a rookie coming in late in the season, I wouldn't say late in the season, but he had a few games where he didn't play. I just don't think the Dolphins are there yet. I think they will be there though. But yeah, I think the Bills take it.
I
AFC,
think I believe Fitzpatrick is going to start at least another game or so.
you think so?
I think it's leaning that way. So from what I was reading today and what I was trying to gather today on researching them, I think Fitzpatrick is going to play for another game or two. Tua may come back in, but we'll see.
A little side note, I admire what the Dolphins are doing with that. I kind of like the what the Packers did with Rodgers and Brett Favre. They invested their future in Aaron Rodgers, but they benched him, and he learned from a really good quarterback. I'm not comparing Ryan Fitzpatrick to Brett Favre, but at the same time, you're taking the future of your organization and you're putting him behind a seasoned quarterback to learn from. All right, now AFC North: Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals. Who you got?
Pittsburgh's going to walk away with that. I think Pittsburgh winds up probably 14-2 or maybe even 15-1 record at best. 15-1. I do think they lose one before they get in. They weren't very impressive against the Baltimore Ravens, and usually their games are close and tough games usually over the years. But you you had RG3 in there. He winds up getting hurt. The third string quarterback comes in. Steelers should have walked away with that. So I know Tomlin expressed his displeasure in how they were playing on that game. I do believe a Wednesday game. I think that game came on at like 3:30. I do believe that is a little off for those players, and I think that did bother them a little bit, kind of threw them off. It's not a Sunday game. It's not a Thursday night game or Monday night game or even a Sunday night game. So I think it threw both teams off. Neither team looked impressive, and Pittsburgh certainly didn't look like an 11-0 team. They got the win, but I do believe we will see a fire lit under them this week, and that might get taken out on the Washington football team. And so we'll see how that plays out. It's going to be an interesting game in itself because I'm curious to see how Pittsburgh kind of bounces back after Tomlin called them out publicly. But yeah, Pittsburgh takes that division easily. I think with Cleveland, I think Cleveland squeaks in as probably the seventh seed, maybe the sixth at 10-6, since this year is the first year of the seven teams in the playoffs.
I agree. I think the Steelers take it. I think they're good enough to win their division. I think the Ravens are just on a left field track right now with uh, Lamar Jackson being out to COVID, RG3 injured. They're down to their third string quarterback for at least another week. Baltimore Ravens are out of the picture. Obviously, the Bengals are out of the picture. Cleveland, I don't think they're good enough to win the division. So yeah, I take Pittsburgh.
Well, one thing I would say about Baltimore, even though um, oh my goodness, even though their quarterback, who's their quarterback, starting quarterback, I can't remember the
Trace
name.
McSorley,
No, 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 no. Baltimore
Lamar
Ravens
Jackson,
starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Thank you. Even though Lamar has diagnosed COVID, so forth, he still has a chance to come back and play that game. Especially since if I remember correctly, that game was moved to Tuesday,
okay.
so that gives them another day. They could actually have him back in there if he tests. I think they have to have. I think their protocol is they have to have two negatives, and before the game day, they have to have two negatives, and they have to be certain number of hours apart from each other, if I remember correctly. So I could see Lamar coming back in that playing in that game. We'll see how that unfolds.
I hope he does, because the Ravens are way too good of a team to be 6-5 right now. All right, the AFC South: Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I think Tennessee pulls that division out. I think they wind up being 11-5. I see Indy coming in at 10-6, and it wouldn't surprise me if they both wound up tying, at 11-5. So I do see both of those teams in the playoffs. The only caveat I would say there, if Cleveland and Indy, make it, if Cleveland and Indy both make it in at, or both get in at, or wind up being 10-6, I don't think they've played each other. So
Mm.
if I don't believe so. Yeah, they have. That's right. And Cleveland lost, so they would hold a tiebreaker, and Indy would get in. So I think Indy winds up being in at 10-6.
10-6. Okay. I take the Texans to win it. I'm kidding. I'm biased, but Texans are my favorite team. No, Texans are out. Obviously, Jacksonville's out. I take the Titans. I think based on the game they played the other week, that they're a better team. I think Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill together are a better dual threat. Um, that's just my take. It's a very close division. I would not be surprised if the Colts take it, but I think the Titans are going to take it by 2 games, maybe 3, depending on the rest of the season.
You think they're going to win that much? I think
I do.
I think they're only going to be separated by two at the absolute most. Um, I do like AJ Brown for Tennessee Titans too.
Mhm.
He's awesome.
All right, last division, AFC West. Kansas City. Is this even a discussion? Kansas City Chiefs, Las Vegas Raiders, Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, really, I think the only discussion there is I think the Chiefs wind up at 14 and 2, 15 and 1, something like that. I believe it comes down to them in Pittsburgh actually, taking the number one seed and having that bye.
Mhm.
Obviously, both of them would enjoy that having that bye and getting ready. Um, Having an extra week to get ready for whichever team they're facing. So I really see that they're both gonna go strong. Typically, the playoffs are the first two seeds actually get a bye. This year, starting with the new format, only the first team gets a bye. It's going to come down to both of these teams. I could see either one, Pittsburgh or Kansas City, winding up, being first. It really is, I think, a coin toss. Kansas City, you could argue Kansas City looks unbeatable at times, but they've lost one. And when you look at that, if you look at if you compare the points for KC is thrown up 348 points to Pittsburgh's 317. If you look at the defense points against, Pittsburgh is 188 their defense, and then KC's defense is at 238. If you look at the difference there, Pittsburgh has a 129, more points scored than actually given up, and then KC is at 110. So I think it's neck and neck for those two teams. Easily could see. I wouldn't bet against it. Kansas City and Steelers in the AFC Championship game, but that's a long way off. We got a lot more to talk about between now and then.
I think if it comes to that, Kansas City takes that hands down. I Kansas City is my favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. They're the only they're the only team that's like 10 and 1, 11 and 0, 8 and 3 or whatever that actually looks like they deserve that record. The only other team that maybe I think could compete with them is like the Seahawks if they're firing on all cylinders, the Saints if they're firing on all cylinders. Other than that, I don't really see any other team in the NFC or AFC that would be like a really really close matchup, or the other team takes it over the Chiefs. But that's just me.
And I think the only other discussion there is Raiders. I think the Raiders wind up 9-7 or 10-6, but I think they wind up just barely, missing the playoffs. The Raiders have a 6-5 record, but they also have a negative 27 points differential. So
Mm-hmm.
they've given up, a lot more points than they've actually scored. So I don't see that. But what I want to do and what we'll do is each week we'll review the NFC and AFC conference. Obviously, this is the first time we've done the AFC. We did the NFC the other day. It'll probably be a little shorter, quicker. Going over the review as we move forward. We got five more games before the end of the year, and I'm excited. Some of these games and some of these teams are going to come down, I believe, to possibly the last week of the regular
Mm-hmm.
season to see who wins
I agree.
the division and who gets in as a wild card team.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that about wraps it up for us. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments below. Father, do you have any closing statements?
Nope. Look forward to doing this again and loving doing it.
All right. Well, that is it. Please join us for episode 5, probably later this week, early next week sometime, but be on the lookout for it. All right. Thanks.